Hello, everyone, and welcome back again to my channel. I'm Frank, and I'm optimistic for you. And I want to thank you for being here today for another video on the amazing language of numbers, numerology, the ancient metaphysical discipline that studies the meanings and vibrations and the energies of the numbers as it affects our names, our birthdays, and everything else that we encounter on our journey through life. And I really want to thank you again for being with me today. Today, our subject is we're talking about the water signs. That's right, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And we're going to talk about the differences between the energy vibrations of the 2 months that form the transit of each of those signs. The fact that depending on which month you're born in, there's a different foundational energy manifesting that water element in each of the signs, depending on which of the months you're born in. So it's going to be a very interesting journey I'm hoping to bring to you about this subject. And I want to remind you that if you like what you see, what you're going to be hearing, that you're inspired by it, that you'll consider subscribing, hitting the like icon, sharing it with your friends, leaving me a comment. I will respond to any and all comments. I'd be more than happy to illuminate any point, answer any question, or just acknowledge your observations. And I really thank you for being here today and sharing this time with me. So let's get right into it, okay? Let's talk about the water signs. Those are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, like I said. The water signs are the signs of the feelers, the intuitors of the universe. I ought to know because I am a Cancer myself, all right? I am a June-born Cancer. My birthday's June 30th. So, all the water signs are highly intuitive and emotional, and driven by feeling and insight into the deeper layers of the world and the emotions of human beings. Okay, now what is the difference if you're say, oh yeah, I'm a Cancer? Well, okay, that's great. You're a Cancer, but if you find out what month you're born in, all of a sudden it tells us a little different information about you, because each of those months of either June or July, the transit of Cancer is June 22nd to July 22nd. Each of those months is the foundational energy for that individual born in that month manifesting the sign. In numerology, there are 3 life cycles on the life path of your destiny: the month, the day you're born, and the year you're born in. And the formative foundational energy is the month energy. So this energy is what the young child coming into incarnation under these signs in those months is going to start being stamped with indelibly, the energy which will be the formative one of the evolution of their life in this incarnation. So let's talk about it with Cancer. The June-born Cancer, and I speak from experience because I know, the June-born Cancer is under the influence of the number 6. The number 6 in numerology is the number of duty, obligation, responsibility, parenting, nurturing. It's the number of the sacrificer, the burden bearer, okay? So the child born in Cancer in the month of June will tend to be a child who is highly intuitive, highly sensitive, and yet also given through many, many sources in their spheres of contact, family, friends, even people they don't know. Many, many kinds of obligations, expectations, burdens placed upon them. So for a young child who may not be ready for that kind of energy being imposed upon them, a more sacrificial, a more surrendering energy to larger, bigger things that are being thrust upon them. They may not understand, why do I have to be expected to have to carry this obligation, this responsibility, or expected to perform this and that when my brother or sister or them, they don't have to do it. Why? Because the energy of number 6 draws to an individual, whether it's as the first cycle as the birth month, birthday, birth year, whatever, wherever that number is encountered, it implies the sense of the capacity for service, the capacity for carrying the burden, for being the substantive one who can take on responsibility, even not even the ones of their own desire or their own making. Life will put the child, in this case, the Cancer child, into a position where they will have to subordinate their own will for the sake of the duty to family or institution or something larger than themselves. It is an energy that lives to serve others in different capacities, whether it's as a parent, as a head of an institution, as leader of a cause. But for a child, it is the initial energy where they're starting to understand that they're in a very unique way being selected to take on kinds of experiences that they look in the environment around them that maybe other children don't have to carry, because the burdens and obligations of others imposed by family, friends, expectations can put a lot of pressure on a young child who doesn't understand that this is the necessary understanding of that energy and vibration in order to master it. Only until later in young adulthood will we see that the energy and the maturation process will bring a child maybe to a reconciliation of that awareness and an acceptance, knowing, hey, this is kind of how it's always been, and I think I understand that I'm okay with it because I've always been pretty good at it, or I've learned to be good at it, even though I don't really want to welcome anything more than I need to. They understand that somehow they're the ones who were chosen, oftentimes to for someone to come to them who's in need, who needs a shoulder to cry on, or needs to leave some of the negative baggage on. And it's sometimes unwelcome, but it just seems to be the nature, the destiny of the number 6 and the young June-born Cancer. So anyway, that's what a Cancer in June energy is really is created and is manifesting. How is the July-born Cancer different? Well, even in the tarot cards, they kind of give the whole month of July as the month of Cancer, even though the sign starts its transit in June. The number of July is the number 7, the 7th month of the year. So, contrary to the energies of the June-born Cancer, which a Cancer is already kind of a nurturer and a parental kind of energy as a water sign. It's like the nurturing sign of the zodiac anyway. But the difference is the June-born Cancer has obligation thrust on them, and they're having to manifest it and accept and take it on and be the agents of responsibility. The July-born Cancer, while they have the capacity for responsibility, are much more formal, a little more inward driven, because the number 7 is the number of the intuitive, of the philosopher, of the mystic, of the scientist, of the analyzer, the thinker, the person looking below. A July-born Cancer tends to be more inward, tends to be more private, tends to be more withdrawn. It has to be drawn a little more out in social situations at first. They're already highly intuitive, as all Cancers are, but with under the influence of the number 7, they are the energy brings with it a kind of an openness to much more subtle energetic influences coming from all places. They tend to be more intuitive, perhaps psychic, because you combine the intuitive nature of the sign itself, the water sign, with the numerical power of intuition, insight, understanding, evaluation of number 7. So you have the Cancer child plays things closer to the vest. They don't reveal their feelings as openly as the June-born Cancer, who feels a bond and a connection and an exuberance for self-expression and its connection to people and its obligation to others. The July-born Cancer tends to be a little more, like I said, withholding, more skeptical, more analytical, and sizing up of its emotional environment before it opens up to others. Not necessarily cynical or distrustful, just sort of looking out to protect its own self first, because its first impulse is that it senses things that might make them vulnerable to energies that they don't really maybe understand how to handle, or that they might misinterpret as being not in their own interests. So they will be more protective and guarded compared to the June-born Cancer, who was much more kind of flamboyant, out of its, open mouth, out of his way, like, yours truly over here. Because I have all the same Cancer traits, but compared to my own, I have a brother who's born in July, and we're very different in our approach. I see the common ground in our sensitivities and our capacity for nurturing and loving and willingness to take responsibility. But my brother, my July brother, and my father was also a July-born Cancer, and he was also very kind of guarded and close to the vest, but again, highly sensitive person, and with great insight and great capacity. When you open them up, you realize that the Cancer born in July is a trove of feeling and perception and understanding in ways that their external demeanor will belie. So, but again, the July born Cancer, guarded, withdrawn, sensitive, but holding it to itself. The June-born Cancer, more extroverted, more openly receptive to obligation, more openly connected to other people and the expression of emotions and the sharing of emotion and taking on the burdens and obligations of friends and family and people who are loved, wanting to be the responsible one, the one that can be counted on, and totally capable and willing to do that. Maybe reluctantly at first as a younger child, but as time goes on, much more willing participant in the process. So that's the difference between the energies of the June-born and the July-born Cancer. Let's get to Scorpio, the water sign of Scorpio, which transits the zodiac, the calendar year from the time October 23rd to November 21st. Scorpio is a very deeply passionate sign, deeply emotional, but again, very, very guarded, very, very self-contained, okay? But highly intuitive, highly emotional, and again, deeply, deeply sensitive in so many layers, but very, very, in some ways like the July-born Cancer, very, very reticent about opening up only to the most trusted of energies and spirits and connections, okay? Now, what's the difference between an October-born Scorpio and a November-born Scorpio? They both have very, very similar qualities. The difference is the October-born Scorpio is under the influence of the number 1, okay? In numerology, as I say, the multiple digit numbers are reduced to single digits. So they're actually in the 10th month of the year, October, which is reduces, when you add 1 and 0 to a 1, which is the male energy, which is the acting agent, that which generates action, which is assertive, which is independent, which is pioneering, which is a leadership energy, which engages the world through the force of will. So, and it's also reflective of the tarot cards. Number 10 is the Wheel of Fortune. So their lives tend to be very open to many unique and unexpected experiences as the wheel turns, as reflected by that card. But the bottom line is that the Scorpio born in October is very, very strong-willed, very independent, very, very progressive in terms of fulfilling its own needs, very willful, very, very energetically solitary in a lot of ways, very private. And I mean, both months are very, very private and guarded, but very much in its own power, in the sense of willpower and ego and direction of their own personal authority is paramount in the October-born Scorpio. They're pretty much the lone wolves. They kind of make their own reality. They kind of express their own reality, and they put their own unique stamp on everything they do because they're and they may find themselves early on being a water sign. They're highly sensitive, so it may be a little bit awkward early on in the formative energy years of the Scorpio child born in October, because they may find themselves feeling isolated and alone, because that number 1 is also the number of self, but it's also the number of aloneness, independence, loneliness in its negativest manifestations, or the feeling of abandonment, or having to stand on its own when it would welcome supportive energies. Life will maybe force them more and more to develop a strong sense of self-identity and self-control, self-discipline in order to protect itself, protect the energy, protect the child itself from any vulnerabilities or any threats that are perceived, or from this sense of it's me against everything else, because that kind of sense is very strong in the October born Scorpio, okay, or any sign or person born in a month where it reduces to 1, especially in the child of that energy, okay, because the number manifests later on if people have it on their birth path, but it's so formative in the young child that it's much more powerful in its effect as a first vibration. So that's the October born Scorpio. How is the November Scorpio different? Well, it's under the influence of the corollary to the number 1, the number 2, or number 11. November, the 11th month, is considered one of the master numbers. The master numbers in numerology are 11, 22, and 33. Number 11 is the inspired version of the number 2, which 11 reduces to when you add 1 and 1, which is the feminine principle. Number 2 is the feminine principle. If 1 is the active, engaging, active, pioneering energy, number 2 is the passive, receptive, fulfilling energy, the harmonizing energy, the balancing energy. If it manifests as a mere number 2, if it manifests as the master 11, you have inspiration at work. You have divine inspiration at work. You have a child who is highly sensitized to all kinds of intuitive responses. You may have a psychic quality, highly intuitive at the very least, psychic, greatly possible here. One who responds to the subtle energies of others, to the subtle forces of the divine, to the subtle forces of the human condition, okay? A person who recognizes deeply and intuitively and connects with the environment, oftentimes is engaged with unfamiliar terrain, psychic terrain that they take in personally and try to understand, which leaves them as a child perhaps somewhat confused, isolated, feeling like a little bit like they're out of sync with the more just sort of practical, down-to-earth, plain old energies, because this is a child that's highly evolved already, emotionally, spiritually. They may not understand that evolution inside themselves until later on in young adulthood, when they start getting a maturation and a little more clarity about their own intuitive and spiritual capacities as an individual. But again, a highly intuitive energy in the November Scorpio. Again, with all the other Scorpio traits, very private, very guarded, only letting in only the most trusted of allies and friends, and opening up to very few, but deeply bonded and loyal to the people they are deeply committed to, either biologically or emotionally or spiritually. Okay, they are loyal to the end. A deep sense of family that is expressed with the November-born Scorpio. A deep bond to parents, especially, and siblings, but most really strong with parents because of that 2 energy, which is sort of that surrendering to the stronger energy. And for them, the models of that stronger energy from childhood are the parents, right? So they've always looked to the parents for their protection and leadership and guidance and love and affection. They're ready to give deeply of affection to the people they care deeply about. They don't give affection freely to everyone. You have to earn their trust and respect and affection and admiration before they open up and start expressing or even offering deeper levels of affection to anyone. But that's the nature of the highly protected, highly intuitive, highly sensitive November-born Scorpio. So while you can see that there's a great deal of similarity, as it is from sign to sign to sign, but there's a great nuanced difference between the one born in October and the one born in November. And those are the formative energies, like I say, that put their stamp, like put their brand in the molten steel of their soul as they come into this incarnation and as they're starting to understand who they are and growing into the soul that they are becoming. Not the soul they always are, but the being they are becoming in this particular incarnation and the way they're going to respond to the world around them. Okay? So that's Scorpio. Now, finally, last but certainly not least, is the last sign of the zodiac in the 12th house. It's Pisces. That the water sign that's transit is from February 19th to March 20th. Pisces is rounds out the trinity of the water sign here. They're highly emotional and intuitive, intensely intuitive, more freely intuitive than Scorpio, much more guardedly intuitive than Cancer. So Pisces is kind of like the middle ground between Cancer and Scorpio, the open-hearted, selfless giving and sometimes mindless giving of Cancer, which loves to nurture and share and give, and the guarded, intense, intuitive, psychic energy of Scorpio. Pisces is the balancing point of both of those energies: intuitive, loving, giving, possibly psychic for all of their intuitions, but beautiful, balanced energies, a great partnering energy, a great intuitive, creative force, many creative, beautifully creative or expressive energies are manifested through the sign of Pisces. But what is the difference between the February born and the March born Pisces? Okay, let's get into it. We've already seen February is the second month, so there's a common ground with the November born Scorpio. They're both under the influence of the number 2. The difference is that the Scorpio is manifesting and can manifest as the master 11 intuitive. The February born Pisces is usually a purer 2, which is the feminine energy again. So the February born Pisces is going to be very sensitive, like femininely sensitive in the sense that a woman is much more sensitive and attuned to its own nature, her own nature, its own nature, and the nature of the world around them and the feelings of people around them and the forces at work around them. It's a very receptive and intuitive and harmonizing energy. So the February born Pisces is going to be seen as the darling of the family, is going to have a warm, childish, impish nature, playful, harmonizing, always wanting to balance out the energies around. They're natural diplomats. They're peacemakers. Number 2 is always looking to harmonize and to balance all the disparate forces that they encounter in the world. They're very highly sensitized, not just emotionally, but intuitively as well. And the intellect is highly developed, but also filtered through an emotional, intellectual complex, which is kind of mitigated through an intuitive capacity, which gives a Pisces a kind of a balanced approach to the way they respond to the world in ways that Cancer and Scorpio do not bring to the game, okay? Not to say it's either better or worse. It's just how they're wired, spiritually, psychically, emotionally. But the February born one is much more sensitive to others, much more ready to cooperate and be a partnering energy, much more open to creativity, much more sensitized to aesthetic impulses, creative, expressive impulses, just a great team player, a great partner as a husband or a wife, as a spouse of any kind, of any kind of a partnering capacity. It's a beautiful harmonizing energy, and Pisces, coupled with the highly intuitive and sensitive nature, you've got a very loving, sensitive and emotional companion or individual that you're engaging with, whether you know them interpersonally through your friendships, relationships, or work environment. They're always going to be a wonderful partnering person. someone with great insight and great capacity to bring a unique harmonizing energy to any opportunity. Okay. Now that's the February born Pisces. How is the March Pisces different than the February one? Well, they are under the influence of the number 3 in their formative childhood cycle. Okay. So the number 3 is the number of expression, of creativity, of performance, of the star. This is the person who loves to be the center of attention, okay? Anyone under the influence of number 3 is expressive. They love to talk. They love to share their feelings. They love to hear your feelings and then take you one higher with the feedback of their own feelings, okay? Because social engagement is at the core of the energy of the 3. As a child, especially as it evolves, they're discovering that they have this star power that they sense in themselves, and they like to flaunt it, and they like to charm everything around them. Much more willfully driven than the February Pisces, because the February Pisces, again, more not passive, but wanting to be a more secondary energy, responsive energy, harmonizing. The March-born one is more the prima donna, the more the center of attention, the more, hey, I'm here, everybody. Take your seats, because here we go, on with the show. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. But it's their beautiful, creative, dynamic people, incredibly versatile, able to relate to people across the bounds, to appeal across cultures, across educational levels, against socioeconomic levels. They are just highly evolved actors, performers, players on the stage of life. And they bring everything that they have, every trick of the trade, every skill they've learned from childhood that they see people responding to. They recognize immediately the effect they have on those around them. They recognize it, they respond to it, they play to it, and they milk it for all it's worth. Gets them in trouble sometimes, especially the kids when they're small and they're overplaying their hand, when they're trying to be too cutesy with parents and other family friends and stuff. And they may scatter energy kind of going all over the place. Start here, then kind of run out of steam, jump here, jump up, finish that, run over here. So again, the danger with the number 3 as the first cycle is always the scattering of energy of a child, losing focus. So it's always good to kind of give a Pisces March-born child some more structure, boundaries, things to kind of focus that energy, encourage the creativity, encourage the self-expression, but give them free reign to express everything they are, because there's a hell of a lot inside of them, and it's evolving all the time, because it's being nourished not only by their own intuitive nature, but by God, by spirit, by the divine. They are the conduit. Pisces is one of the biggest, all the water signs are conduits for inspired energies coming from subtler forces in layers of spirit, the spirit realm, as well as the real world as well. They're like, again, natural performers. Give them a spotlight and they'll stay in it for as long as you let them. Okay. But again, the beautiful energies, again, common to both signs, both months born of Pisces, but clearly the difference is the February one is more of a passive, cooperative, sensitive, quietly sensitive energy. The March energy, more flamboyant, more vivacious, more outgoing, more willful. So, but they all manifest the water sign qualities through the sign in similar ways, just with a great nuance difference, because that initial formative energy is different for the very same sign. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting and informative. That's the amazing thing about numerology. The more you get into it in all of its aspects, the more you realize, my God, there is so much I can learn about myself, about the people I know and love, and seeing these different things that give me sort of more modification of my perception of these people, because we're all made up of so many factors. And this is just another way of understanding the factors that go into making who we are in this incarnation. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this information. I hope you were inspired by it. I hope it's helpful to you, whether you're one of the water signs we're talking about, or you're a cross watcher watching on behalf of someone you care about who's one of these water signs, or you're just curious about learning more about numerology. I hope it was inspiring and educational and informative. It was really my pleasure sharing it with you, and I want to thank you for being here. If I may, you'll notice there is a icon here in the corner that has been showing through the whole video. That's the cover of my book. I am also, besides being a numerologist, I am a poet. And I'm very proud. I'd like to share with you my book. It's called The Au Revoir of an Enormous Us. It's my collected poems over 50 years of writing poetry of all kinds. Rhymed poetry, free verse, poems about love, sorrow, my journeys through life, different places I've traveled to, imaginary voyages into other realms of the imagination, of spirit, of human endeavor, and all kinds of a range of subjects that I think you'll find really engaging. I'm so proud of it. Again, it's almost 500 pages. It's available at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And I hope you'll do me the honor and privilege of checking it out. At the Amazon site, you can look at the look inside part right above the cover of the book, and you can read some of the poems that are in there, see the titles. You can read more about my biography, what my educational background, all that stuff. I hope you'll find it interesting and engaging, and hopefully you'll consider purchasing a copy. And for all of us who love astrology, metaphysics, numerology, all things occult and metaphysical, one big thing I'm proud about this book is one whole section of some 50 plus pages is called The Arcane Reveries, and is our poetic sketches and meditations on the major arcana of the tarot card deck. Each of the cards is beautifully illustrated, and they're kind of sketches, sometimes told from the point of view of the character in the card, sometimes told as an observer of the energy of the card, or a feeler or interpreter of the energy. It's meditative, poetic, spiritual, and literary in a lot of ways. And I hope you'll find it engaging. I'm very proud of it. It's like, again, about 50-page section of the book, but it's all in here. And I hope you'll give it a look online at Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble. And I thank you for allowing me the chance to plug my book for you. I'm very proud of it. And in conclusion here, I just want to thank you again. All of you water signs who are here, cross watchers, everyone else who took the time. I hope you will subscribe, like, share this with friends. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them. I respond to every comment I receive. I'll be glad to answer any question you guys may have. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this journey. I hope you learned something. I hope you're inspired. I hope it gives you some insight more into the people you know and love. And I hope it will trigger an enthusiasm and an excitement for this amazing language of numbers that will propel you to either watch some of my previous videos, which talk about other aspects of numerology, and all my future videos. So I hope you'll join me next time for more numerology. And again, many, many thanks for being here today. Love and light to all of you. God bless you all. Thank you for being a part of my journey. It's an honor to be able to do this and to share these things with you, and I thank you for allowing me. So until next time, love and light. God bless you all, and I'll see you then. Thanks again. Bye-bye.